In this episode of Future Steps Creative, we're going to be talking about doing the work and what it actually means to do the work when it comes onto building our online businesses, or when it comes onto just achieving the success that we desire in life in general, how we go about doing the work and what it actually means. Hey, what's happening, everyone? My name is Marlon McPherson from marlonmcpherson.com, and you're listening to the Future Steps Creative podcast, a podcast that talks about online entrepreneurship and online business strategies. And I'm your host as usual. So in this episode, like I said, we're talking about doing the work. And the reason for this topic is that I find that quite a few people, they want all the results, right? They have these big ideas and they want to build their empire. They want to actually build a business, but at the same time, they either underestimate the amount of work that's involved in setting up as an entrepreneur or just setting up a business, or working for yourself in general. It takes a heck of a lot of responsibilities and self-motivation, and it takes a lot of drive to be able to put yourself forward and become a success with doing what you're doing in terms of an online business or becoming an entrepreneur. So what I'm trying to say is that it is a lot of work. And for different people, the words doing the work or to do the work means something different. So for some people, it means maybe trying to figure out the best hack or the best way to get ahead for the short term. And they're not thinking necessarily ahead for the long term. They just want the win now. And as a result of that, there's no longevity. If it works for them and they can kind of make some money and cash out, then that's great. But for those of us who are actually looking to build a future, for those of us looking to build a future that's strong, the foundations needs to be solid. Okay, so we need to actually make sure we understand what we're talking about when we say we need to do the work to build up for the future successes of our businesses and our lives in general. So to me, doing the work, actually, I coined this phrase here, this phrase from Hal Elrod from the Miracle Morning book. I think he's the one that said it, but instead of saying Q&A relating to questions and answers, he talks about questions and actions. And what questions and actions refers to is the fact that you need to figure out what you need to do by asking questions, getting the answers, but then most importantly, taking action on the things that we need to take action on. That's how we're going to make progress. A lot of the times we feel that we don't have the tools, the resources, or whatever it is to take ourselves forward. We feel like there's this next miracle thing that's going to come about, that's going to actually solve the problem of getting us moving. But I believe that we have all the things that we need to our disposal or at our disposal right now. The information is there, readily available and easy to find. We live in an age of Google and other search engines. All you got to do is Google whatever you want. The issue is figuring out what's relevant to you at this moment in time. If you can figure out what's relevant to you now, then you can block out everything else and just focus on those things and take action. What we tend to do, unfortunately, is that we feel that we have to learn everything now. And because we don't understand necessarily the process behind whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether this is figuring out your brand, starting your website or building your website, or figuring out your marketing or what product to bring to market or who to focus on. All of these things has a process behind it. And when you just start out, I certainly was very confused with certain aspects of it, even though I worked in marketing previously. There were certain principles as an entrepreneur and for personal branding that wasn't necessarily obvious to me. And I thought I had it put together. But when you work in the conditions of in the environment that has already been structured as a business where somebody else has already figured that out for you, it's not always immediately obvious. But when you branch off on your own and you start building out and trying to figure out what you need to do, it can become very overwhelming because information is hitting us left, right, and center. We have, like I said, Google, it's a blessing and a curse because we can get the answers that we need in Google, but at the same time, there's too much information sometimes, and information that's contradicting, or the quality isn't necessarily up there where you can trust it. So the key is to be able to actually just figure out just now where you are and where you need to get to for the next step. And that obviously takes some figuring out of the roadmap that you need to be on. So you need to actually just take a look at maybe a business or an entrepreneur who's already doing what you're doing and map out their success. If you've seen that, okay, they're pretty much along the lines of where I need to be, they'll be happy to share that with you. You can even ask, approach an entrepreneur, reach out to somebody else online and say, look, can you give me like a quick tip, checklist of things that I need to be covering right now to get from point A to point B? Because I've seen that you've done that and you've been through it. So it's about taking actions and figuring out how you need to take action. One of the key things in taking action is that you got to start. You have to start. And I think that might be one of the hardest things, is to actually get up and get that push to say, look, I'm going to actually do this. Let me start by taking that first step, whatever it might be, no matter how small. I think that's a significant thing, because taking that first step is actually, it does something for you mentally that says that, look, I'm in action mode now. I'm actually going for it. And triggering that first action kind of puts on a domino effect where that momentum starts to build up. The ball keeps rolling, you gather momentum, and it becomes easier and easier. However, at the same time, it's going to become more and more complex. So it's about being aware of where you are and the things that you need to do to get to that next level. So start gathering momentum from now, because things always take longer than we think. And before you know it, we say, okay, I'm going to not do this one thing that I need to do today. Let me leave it till tomorrow because I'm going to go to the cinema. I'm going to go shopping. I need to sleep, whatever. Sometimes you have to make those sacrifices and say, look, this is what I need to do. Let me just get it out of the way and get those small wins out of the way first. That's a power tip there for you, because mentally that elevates your motivation to carry on to that next harder thing. But if you start with the hardest possible thing, it might be a little bit demotivating if you don't necessarily achieve it quickly enough or in the way that you'd expect. But if you start with the small things and figuring out what you can start with that builds up towards that big thing, then that's something you can do. So I want you to start doing what you need to do today, figure it out, the first steps you need to take, and take some kind of action and make that something that you say, whether it's to maybe, start an email list, or to start putting together an outline for some content that you want to produce or create for online, whether you want to write or do videos or do a podcast like I'm doing. I'm showing up and doing the work. This is what I'm doing. Even if I don't feel like making this content, a little thing about this episode is that I'm actually recording it late because I was up doing the work over the last couple of days. I've had some issues on my website. And because I'm primarily the person that's in charge of the day-to-day running currently, which is for the most part okay, because once you have things set up a certain way, you don't need to touch it until maybe something gets updated on the site, like a plugin gets updated and it just breaks everything else. I was pulling my hair out. I don't have any hair per se left, but I was pulling my hair out, trying to figure out why something wasn't working on my site. And it took me all of 48 hours or so to actually get to the bottom of it, because mixed in between trying to figure that out, I still had to do the other stuff in my business and live my life, do what I need to do outside of that as well. So doing the work means making sacrifices, sacrificing even sleep sometimes, right? To get things done and to make sure that you're on the right track, because you know why you're doing what you're doing. You know what the end result is that you're looking for. And as a result of that, you can keep that motivation turned up. And pretty much when everyone else is sitting by looking at you and other people being successful or achieving the goals, you're actually the one doing it. Okay. You're the one actually making those goals, those dreams come through, those goals come to pass. So pretty much that's what you need to be focused on as far as I'm concerned. The last thing I want to mention in this is that you need to pace yourself because, again, you don't want to get overwhelmed. I'm the type of person that feels like I have to do everything right now, and that could be a good and a bad thing. Sometimes I have to tell myself, you know what, let me step back and sort of reevaluate, give myself a little break where my brain can reboot. And sometimes the thing that I've been trying to have a go at for the last, I don't know, however long it's been, and I can't figure out how to get past that point. Sometimes taking a step back, going for a walk and stuff like that, giving yourself a break helps you to think and helps you to solve that problem. So what I'm going to say is just pace yourself, be realistic about what you can achieve within a certain time frame. And just making a plan, setting a plan out and sticking to that plan to do the work. So I think my takeaway from this today is going to be to get you to maybe make a note of all the things that you need to accomplish to get to that next level and prioritizing them somehow to figure out what you can take as that next or that thing to do to start, the next step or the thing to do to start in getting yourself from where you are now to that next level. I hope this has been useful. I don't think I've got anything else to mention on this point. This week's episode is a little different because I've got my slides here on my iPad, so I'm not sure how, well, it's not quite slides, but yeah, on my iPad, I've got my notes. I'm trying to do this so I can get these productions a bit quicker because the editing is a killer, especially because I combine video and audio together and I do those separately for the different formats for iTunes, etc. So I want to be able to get this content out a lot quicker. So I am now doing some of the presenting on my iPad, and I have my portable recording setup, which is not this in front of me right now. I do have a portable mic and recorder, so I might even be recording from my car just so you can get the content and I can do the work. But anyway, you've been listening to the Future Steps Creative Podcast. My name is Marlon Macpherson. Feel free to check out the website at marlonmacpherson.com and drop me a line if you've got any questions or any comments regarding things you need help with and future content that you'd love to see. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and to sign up to my newsletter so you can get the latest notifications of content that I have coming out. Thank you for listening or watching, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.